DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. We're joined now by Bob Harig, Sports Illustrated golf writer, longtime writer for ESPN and the Tampa Bay Times as well. He's covered Tiger Woods since the beginning of his pro career, and he's got a book out, actually a second book out on him, and he joins us now. Bob, good morning.
Hey, good morning. Thanks a lot for having me.
Thanks for coming on. So Drive is tied into the 5-year anniversary of Tiger's 2019 Masters victory. I'm curious, for a guy who has lived his life in the spotlight, in the golf spotlight since he was a teenager, how much more is there to know about him, especially considering he does try to keep as low a profile as possible and say as little as possible at times? Is he at a point in his life where he feels a little more expansive? Is this nuggets that have been observed along the way and maybe we just haven't seen them all? What was your approach going into this book?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's the challenge. I mean, Tiger is not a forthcoming guy. He wasn't adversarial, but he did not cooperate, and he didn't with the first book I did. It's mostly reporting from being there, talking to others who have been around him, obviously all the people that he's played against, his coaches, his caddies, and the book is tied to the 5-year anniversary of the Masters win 2019, which was incredible, but that victory also kind of was a highlight of it. It was an example of frankly, the book's title, Drive. He's had this amazing resiliency that other players, other people we just don't have. We don't have that kind of fight due to human nature. And Tiger has shown that numerous times throughout his career. And I sort of try to make the argument that he wouldn't have the record he has without it. I mean, certainly his skill, his ability, his talent was going to take him a long way, but it wasn't going to take him all the way. And, Tiger fighting back after back surgery, Tiger, frankly, numerous occasions of 142 straight cuts, winning the Masters after shooting 40 for his first 9 holes. I sort of recount all these examples in his career of his amazing resiliency, his amazing never quit attitude.
Is it true? Did I read that he shot a 31 in secrecy at the Masters the other day?
If he did, I have not heard that. He was here. I'm in Augusta now. He was here on March 30th to play a practice round. It was the first time he had come up this spring. He played with Fred Ridley, the chairman of the club, and Justin Thomas, and I think that was more just get familiar with the course again round. I've at times Tiger has played incredibly well in those tournaments, which is impressive. But I did not hear a score. We'll get to ask him tomorrow. He's on the course now, practicing today. He came up yesterday and just walked around the course and with a putter and a couple of wedges, and just didn't even hit full shots. Just worked on his short game around the course.
Given all he's been through and all the surgeries he's had, what percentage of he is he now of what he was? How good could he possibly be?
It's probably a fraction of what he was before. Unfortunately, I mean, he's still got back problems, which are ongoing, on and off. Certainly for a golfer who's 48 years old. And then there's the lower right leg. He about a year ago, not long after the Masters, he had a fusion surgery on his right ankle. So basically, that solidified it. That was meant to sort of, I guess, sort of like the fusion in the back. It was like to make it more solid, but it obviously took away a ton of flexibility. And so, he can walk a lot better. But he's certainly not got the mobility that he had before that allows him to push off on that ankle. I happen to think it's why Tiger, if you look, he's pretty bulked up. I think he feels he needs to use his upper body to get the ball out there. and he still can. He was at Riviera earlier this year. He didn't stay long because he got sick. He had the flu. But Tiger was pounding the ball out there. There was no problem with that. It's just the whole issue of, can he get to the ball? Can he walk properly? And obviously a golf course like Augusta is incredibly hilly and challenging, and it's not exactly the easiest place for a guy like Tiger to play golf at this moment.
Using Scheffler as the reason I'm asking this question, how much can the greens at Augusta get into your head? Yeah,
no doubt. I mean, and that's kind of Scotty Scheffler's issue these days. The greens are they're a challenge. They certainly they're very, very fast. There's a lot of undulation, a lot of hills, and you have to learn them to be able to read them. Most players will say they don't see the breaks in these putts that are there, and it takes a lot of knowledge. You have to have sort of been around for a while. So if you've got any kind of demons in your head over putting, it's not the greatest place to come, because you can get a little squeamish, and that's where Scheffler's shown some vulnerability. Now, in the last month or so, obviously he's putted a lot better. He won 2 tournaments. He had a great chance to win in Houston and had about an 8 or 9 footer on the last hole to tie and missed it. So his putting, if Scheffler's putting is just average, he'll be in contention. His putting has been way below average, and he's still been in contention a lot. So this is it'll be interesting to see how he handles the greens. He hits a lot of greens, which is always a big stat at the Masters. Usually the guy who wins is top 2 or 3 in greens in regulation. That's not always the case at other tournaments, but he usually is at the Masters.
Do you think the LIV guys are being tested and pushed enough with how they play when they come to somewhere like Augusta to handle it and to win? Or do you think the odds are heavily stacked now in favor of the guys who are on the PGA Tour?
I mean, that was a big question going into the Masters last year. They had only played 3 tournaments going into the Masters. Most guys are going to play 4, 5, or 6 at least before the Masters rolls around from the start of the year. But, look at what happened. Rahm wasn't with LIV then, but Koepka and Mickelson were tied for second, and Patrick Reed was tied for 4th. So I don't think the layoff or the lack of golf hurt them that much. This year they've all played 5 times, 5 LIV events. They just played last week in Miami at Doral on a tough course. It's hard to say. Brooks Koepka shot 77-77 over the weekend at Doral. I kind of like him this week, but I don't know what that means. Like, is something off? Or I actually was down there for a few days, and I watched him a little bit, and I thought he looked good. So I don't know if something came up or what, but I think that last year sort of put that aside. These guys are pro golfers. They know how to prepare. There's other ways to get ready. If they'd have played only 1 or 2 tournaments, that would be a problem. But they've all played enough, I think, to come here ready to go. And then it's just a matter of, are they playing well enough? Is their game strong enough?
I don't think, obviously, that it applies in this situation at this week, and there'll be 3 other majors to go after this week. But we've heard some talk about declining interest in the game of golf because of the 2 factions. How much do you buy it?
I do buy it. I think there's a fatigue about talking about this issue, about money. The whole money issue has turned people off. I understand why we're at this point. The stars of the game for long before LIV sort of were advocating for, why are you not taking care of the stars? And, it is a sport where, as much money as Tiger has made, you could argue that he's been underpaid from the tournament winnings perspective, because if you don't perform, you don't get paid. If Steph Curry goes 0 for 12, he still gets paid. But in golf, it doesn't work that way. And yet Tiger might have sold all the tickets, but if he misses the cut, he gets 0. And there had been this shift. But now I think what's happened is it's probably gone too far. And, obviously what the live guys are getting is frankly, it's obscene, the amount of money some of them are making. And now the tour has funneled all this money to their players to sort of try to make up for it. I think people are tired of hearing about it. Another factor, though, that's maybe hurt is the stars on the PGA Tour this year have not stepped up. Scheffler's just recently has won. Wyndham Clark won at Pebble Beach, but that tournament didn't even play on Sunday. It got rained out. They canceled the final round due to weather. Rory, JT, Jordan Spieth, Ricky Fowler, Victor Hovland, Patrick Cantlay, Schauffele. None of those guys, they're not winning. They're not up there enough. And I think, the sport kind of needs its stars to be in contention a little more often. So that has not helped either.
It seems like a common thread across many sports. The money is so big, and guys have interest in doing other things with their lives, or the sports change. But in baseball, starting pitchers used to be stars, and you'd go to see whoever the star pitcher was. And now guys are getting pulled after, 4 1/3 innings. Well, you're not the hero getting big outs in the 7th, 8th, and 9th. You're gone by the 6th. And in the NBA, we know how often stars are sitting in the NBA. It's nonstop before you look at a score and think, wow, that's a surprise. You better find out if the top guys played. And with LIV, guys want to play 54 holes, not 72. If you're not following it really close, you don't know which week LIV is even playing or if they're off this week. This seems like a problem across a lot of sports. Is there anyone talking about any solutions to it?
Listen, as a guy who lives in the Tampa Bay area and follows the Tampa Bay Rays, I know all about the opener. And to your point about starting pitching, it's a great point. Fans love to go watch the starting pitchers, and now they've almost become role players. And in golf, you're right. LIV only plays 14 events. You have to be pretty tuned in to know when they're playing. You have to be paying attention. Before they just played Miami, they went overseas. They played in Jeddah and they played in Hong Kong. Their tournaments weren't even available live on TV. That you could get them on an app, but you couldn't see it live on TV, and sort of out of sight, out of mind. Especially for us, for Americans mostly. That appeals to I will say, LIV does appeal to an international audience that feels starved, that they don't get to see the star players very often. We're spoiled in the U.S. We get to see them on our time zones, and we can get to those tournaments. But golf has an issue right now. So much of sports has become about entertainment and appeasing a wide audience. And sometimes I think what gets lost is the actual competition. This is still a competitive environment, and those things are important too.
Is Dick Vitale the biggest celebrity who roots for the Rays?
He probably is. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, Dick Vitale goes to a lot of Rays games and laments some of this stuff we're talking about. I think I've seen him on Twitter talking about pulling the pitchers and stuff. It's kind of funny.
Bob Harig joining us, Sports Illustrated golf writer. You got 2 books. You got the Drive book with Tiger that is out right now. Before that, you wrote a book about Tiger and Phil. Now, obviously, early on, there's going to be a lot of tension, right? Because they're fighting for the same thing and their spot in the sport. It seemed like somehow, as they got older, they reached some middle ground. Maybe they weren't best friends, but at least they were able to play like they enjoyed each other's company on TV, and maybe there was more to it. But now Tiger's so invested in the PGA Tour and Phil's so invested in LIV. Has it gone full circle? Are they butting heads, or it's the Godfather and it's just business? It's not personal?
No, I think they're butting heads. But, frankly, I don't think they speak. When I was writing that book, it was before LIV started. And I sort of was surmising that they would kind of ride off into the sunset as, kind of like Jack and Arnie did. Jack and Arnie were rivals, and then they became, they softened. As you get older, those competitions are in the background. I could frankly probably write a couple more chapters to that Tiger Phil book because I would say that their rivalry has has intensified off the course in a different way. I mean, Phil, obviously, his legacy is going to be looked at a lot different because of what he did with Liv. You know, Tiger's been a firm and staunch supporter in the PGA Tour and its legacy. And you know, they've gone down different paths. And, you know, the idea of them ever playing together again, I mean, it would be wild if they somehow got paired together at the Masters based on score. Augusta would never put them in the same group right now. But, like, you know, based on score, they could be. And that would be wild. But they've definitely gone their different paths now. And, you know, where that goes now, I think a lot depends on if the sides ever come together.
Well, Bob, we appreciate the time. Enjoy the Augusta and the Masters, and good luck with the book Drive about Tiger Woods. We appreciate it. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Bob Harig, Sports Illustrated golf writer, and you can check out his book Drive. All right, DJ and PK, we got to take a break. Yak, you got something to give away?
Yeah, you know what we do when you win a
golf. It's time.
We're back.
Be caller 12 right now, 801-575-ZONE, 801-575-ZONE, and get your assigned golfer for the Uinta Golf Masters giveaway. It's all brought to you by Uinta Golf, simply the best golf stores in Utah since 1971.